Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, and welcome to another video on this sort of intro to React Router 2024. In this video, we're going to be focusing more on writing routes and linking to pages between routes, so you can kind of see how that dynamic works. So typically what you'll do is you have your main route, which is going to be your main wrapper element, so in this case app. Now what's going to happen is we'll then write our other subroutes sort of in between, and you can actually, this whole subroute aspect can go as deep as you want, so you can have routes inside of routes inside of routes. But the idea is that basically our main page is going to display the app component, and then we're going to want all of our other components to kind of show up in there. So first step is we need to head over to our app.jsx, and we're going to import a component that's in part of the React Router library called outlet. Okay. And essentially what this outlet component does is that this becomes the place that any child routes shows up. So in this case, again, we have that main route, and then every other route we're going to write is going to be a child of that route. Okay, so let me first just clear out this whole component. So theoretically, you might want to have like a header component, and I'll wrap this all up in a div. Okay. Actually, I'll just do it in fragment. There we go. Okay, then we will have a header, theoretically, which could be a header component, but I'll just use a header HTML tag. Then we would have our outlet, and then we would have our footer. And the nice thing about this pattern here is that the header, if you had a header and footer component, then it would be consistent from page to page, okay? Instead of having to like redo the header and footer, like if you had like a header navigation or a footer navigation kind of thing. Okay. So now let's pretend, so this is going to be the outlet. So now if we go back, once we have the outlet in this component, so this is our app component, we can go back to our router and see again, our main route is rendering that app component. And now we can put child routes inside of this route. So I can do another route like this. I can say, hey, there's going to be another route. And this path, the path will be, we'll say /cheese or we'll say page 1. And for now, the element, we're just going to put some arbitrary JSX in there. So we'll just put an H1 that says page 1. That's going to render, just to kind of illustrate the point. And we'll put a few of these. Okay, so we'll put 1, 2, 3. And then this will be page 2. This will be page 3. And just to make it like a little bit more clear, I'm going to make it get over here to the app and put it like the word header in the header tag. So you can see that it just says header. And then I'm going to put footer in the footer tag. So we can see that it says footer. Okay. And basically right now, and then maybe I want to put one more route for like a main page, right? Because we want something to show up there, even if you're not at /page1 /page 2. So in that case, what I would do is I would just leave this blank. I'm just going to leave that blank, and then this would be like main page. Okay, so you can see here, if I were to change the URL here in the browser, and I say /page1, see, it's showing, basically what's going to happen is that React Router is evaluating. It knows that this route matches, because this route's going to, basically the slash is going to match everything, okay? Because the URL is always going to start with a slash at the very beginning. Okay, so it knows that matches, so it's going to be like, okay, well, that matches with this. Now let's keep going, okay? And basically, if I'm in here like this, okay, it's going to be like, okay, well, then this matches because it means nothing left. This is essentially the same thing as this, because basically what it is, it's adding. Now, if I go to /page2, okay, that's going to work because essentially that's the URL /page2. Okay, and it's showing up and then since these are the child routes of app, because again, this parent route is using app, these show up where the outlet is. Okay, so that's why it was important that we put that outlet there, because that's what determines. And again, if I were to split these up and say, hey, they can have a child too, then I could then put another outlet in there, and you can really break it down. Okay, so now here's the thing though, you're not going to write the whole page code in there. So you oftentimes will write them in components. So typically what you'll do here is in your source folder, you're going to create a file for all your normal components, not a file, a folder. So a new folder for all your components. That's typical React. But you're going to have a separate folder for components that represent the whole page, which could be called pages. It could be called, pages is usually what it's called. New folder called pages. And essentially they're still just React components, but the idea is that these components represent a whole page. So in this case, I might have here a new file. We'll call this like page1.jsx. And then here I would say like function, page1. Okay, and then we'll just say, hey, return an h1. Actually, we'll just put a div, and inside that div we'll have an h1 that says page1. Okay, and then we export the component, export default page1, and now I'm going to copy this over a few times for the other two pages. So then I'll create new file page2.jsx. Just change those over to page2. Okay, then a new file for page3.jsx. Okay, and so forth. Okay, I can have as many of these as I want. Okay, now I can go back to my router. I can import these components. So I can go import page1, import page2, import page3. And now, instead of this route saying, hey, instead of routing, giving me this, I want you to render page1. Okay, and this route I want to render page2. And this route should render page3. Okay, and I probably should make a main component too. So new file, main.js. So it's another page. That should be main.jsx because we're using the Vite template, not the create React app template, where that doesn't matter. Control Z, grab this, main, paste, main, and then I'll change this to main as well. Cool. Okay, and now we have our pages. Okay, now the question is, I don't have a navigation. How am I supposed to click from page to page? Well, there's a component for that. So let's go back to our app component, and let's actually build a little navigation here. So we'll make it like main, page1, page2, page3. Okay, and we're going to make those links that you can click on to take you to the different pages. Now, here's the thing. I can't just use an A tag, because a normal A tag, a normal anchor tag that we normally use to make links, would act like a normal link and try to make a request to a server, which there's no server. It's a front end. It's a purely front end website. So in that case, it would cause an error. Okay, so just to kind of, in this case, it might work because the development environment, the Vite or Create React development environment, can handle these requests. They have a built-in stat server working behind the scenes that you're running on your computer. But when you deploy it, it would suddenly break. So what you want to use when you're linking between different routes in React Router, you want to use the link component, which is we would just add to what we import from React Router. So I would just add the link component. And then each of these things would get wrapped in a link component. So I would say link. Okay. So I'm just going to cut that, put that after each of these. And then take this first one and put that before each of these. Okay. And these link components, they have a prop called to that allows you to specify which route they get sent to. So /main. Well, actually, that should just be /. So see, that links to /. This one's going to link to slash page 1. This is going to link to slash page 2. And this is going to link to slash 2 equals slash page 3. Okay, so there's now, so now when I click on this, I can be like page 1, page 2, and see it's taking me to the different sections. How cool is that? Okay, and all it's doing, again, all that's happening is that it's changing the URL here. It's not actually making a request to a server, so it's not actually taking you to another page. It's just changing the URL in the URL bar without making a request. That causes a state update in that router provider that's at the top of the tree, and then that router provider provides that information to all of the routes we defined in our router, and then it's going to basically render whichever components match the URL that we're at. Okay, that's essentially how this all works. Okay, so it's basically, it's just, if you watched my video at the end of my Intro to React 24 series, where basically we would just click a button and it would just change some state and render a different component based on that. It's essentially the same thing here, except what you're doing is you're also making sure to update the URL bar whenever you update that state. So you're updating the state and the URL bar every time I click this link component to create the desired visual effect, to feel like that I'm switching pages when I'm really not. Okay, so that's essentially how this works. So that's how the route component generally works. So now you know how to write a route. You know how to use the outlet component. So that way you can say, hey, if this route, so these 4 routes are the children of this route. So in that case, where do these children routes show up? Well, they show up in the outlet component that's in here. So they show up in the outlet component that we have in our app component. And when you want to create links between the different routes, how do we do that? We use the link component. And again, all of this is coming from React Router DOM. With that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day and enjoy.